Hello everyone. This is Suraj Kumar Sahu about to present a brief on the assigned topic Basic Elements of Indian Foreign Policy. We will first begin with the basic concept of foreign policy, then we will move on to certain objectives of Indian foreign policy, proceeding with principles of Indian foreign policy, and at last but not the least we will be focusing on the Indian foreign policy from 1967 to 1987. Basic concept of foreign policy. In contemporary terms, foreign policy refers to the sum total of principles, interests and objectives which a country promotes while interacting with other countries. The thrust of foreign policy keeps on changing according to changing international conditions. Next we have the objectives of Indian foreign policy, which are preservation of national interest, disarmament, and achievement of world peace. The objectives of our foreign policy are to be fulfilled by certain core principles, which are Panchsheel, non-alignment, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, anti-racism, and strengthening the United Nations. Panchsheel. Panchsheel was signed on 28 April 1954 in response to a world asking for a new set of principles for the conduct of international relations. It was signed by then Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai. The agreement of Panchsheel was based on the principles of mutual respect for each other's territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual non-aggression, mutual non-interference, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence.
Next is a video of the visit of Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai to India.
New Delhi acts somewhat less than pleased by the visit of Red China's Premier Zhou Enlai. Demonstrators urge India's Prime Minister Nehru to take a firm stand toward Chinese violations of the Indian border. Nevertheless, as Zhou arrives, the official welcome has the customary friendly trimmings. Greeted at the airport by Nehru, Zhou grins and gives every indication of being overjoyed. He tries to minimize the border dispute, but Nehru terms it serious. The schedule calls for 6 days of private talks.
Non-alignment. Non-alignment conceptually started as a policy of non-participation in the military affairs of a bipolar world. It did not mean passivity or neutrality and aimed for optimum involvement through multipolar participation towards peace and security.
Next is a video of Indira Gandhi's speech at the 7th NAM Summit convened at New Delhi on March 1983.
Non-alignment is national independence and freedom. It stands for peace and the avoidance of confrontation. It aims at keeping away from military alliances. It means equality among nations and the democratization of international relations, economic and political. It wants global cooperation for development on the basis of mutual benefit. It is a strategy for the recognition and preservation of the world's diversity. Development, independence, disarmament, and peace are closely related. Can there be peace alongside nuclear weapons? Without peace, my father said, all our dreams of development turn to ashes. We are here because we do believe that minds and attitudes can and must be changed, that injustice and suffering can and must be diminished. Our world is small, but it has room for all of us to live together and to improve the qualities of men and women of all races and creeds in peace and beauty.
The concept of NAM was first initiated in the Asian Relations Conference in New Delhi. But first formal gathering took place in Bandung in 1955, where the member states pledged for colonial liberation, peace, cultural, economical, and political cooperation. The first NAM summit was then convened in Belgrade in 1961, which was a logical process to the Cold War. In the first conference, the independent and sovereign rights of the newly independent countries was asserted as the main agenda. Anti-colonialism and anti-imperialism. India's anti-colonialism policy was inspired by diverse political, economical, religious and ideological factors. India had raised voice against Dutch colonialism of Indonesia and South Africa's occupation of Namibia.
Next will follow an interview of Indian politician Shashi Tharoor on the effect of colonial rule on India.
Empire, does it mean anything to Indians anymore?
Not really, John. I think people have largely forgotten it, and Indians are very good at forgiving and forgetting, so they're forgotten as well, which is what I object to. Let them forgive, but let them not forget.
Well, of course, it still has some resonance here in that lots and lots of people wear lots of medals which have the word empire in them. Is that in any way offensive to you?
Oh, no. I think, that's part of your history. You're entitled to it.
So is it a British problem or an Indian problem?
No, I think it is a British problem. First of all, because there is so much historical amnesia about what the empire really entailed. The fact that you don't really teach colonial history in your schools. Children doing A levels in history don't learn a line of colonial history. There's no real awareness of the atrocities, the fact that Britain financed its industrial revolution and its prosperity from the depredations of empire. The fact that Britain came to one of the richest countries in the world in the early 18th century and reduced it after 200 years of plunder to one of the poorest.
But
all of that is really not known anymore.
This is difficult stuff because we're just about to try and do a big deal with you. We need your trade. Are you going to hold this against us?
Not at all. I don't really think this is about today's relations, which are between two sovereign equal countries, John. I mean, our economy is as big as yours now. And as far as we're concerned, I think we don't need to have a chip on our shoulder when dealing with you. But I think we do need to be aware of history because, as I often say to young people, if you don't know where you've come from, how will you appreciate where you're going?
Anti-racism. Anti-racism became a vital element of our foreign policy after India's substantial role in apartheid movement in South Africa. India has legislated several laws intercepting racism both in national and international arena. Strengthening the United Nations. India has advocated active role for UN in development effort of third world countries. India looks upon UN as a vehicle for peace and for peaceful change in world politics. India has made regular financial contributions to the UN and never faltered on its payments. India has participated in virtually all of the initiatives of the UN.
Next will follow a video of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech at United Nations General Assembly on September 28, 2019.
प्रभाव कम से कम होगा। अध्यक्ष महोदय, यूएन पीस कीपिंग मिशंस में सबसे बड़ा बलिदान अगर किसी देश ने दिया है तो वो देश भारत है। हम उस देश के वासी हैं जिसने दुनिया को युद्ध नहीं बुद्ध दिए हैं, शांति का संदेश दिया है। और इसलिए हमारी आवाज में आतंक के खिलाफ दुनिया को सतर्क करने की गंभीरता भी है और आक्रोश भी।
Foreign policy of India from 1967 to 1987. In Indo-US relations. In 1965, Lyndon Johnson promised aid which America had suspended due to Indo-Pak War. Indira resented U.S. policy of food aid as a tool in forcing India to adopt policies favored by U.S. and resolutely refused to sign NPT. Relations strained badly under President Richard Nixon as India signed Treaty of Friendship with USSR in 1971. Indo-Soviet relations. Relations with USSR deepened during Indira Gandhi's rule. India signed the Treaty of Friendship with USSR in 1991 as a counter to Ipindi-Peking-Washington axis. USSR condemned 1974 nuclear test but did not support further action because of ongoing Cold War. Pakistan and South Asia. India fought a brief war with Pakistan in 1971 with a motive to liberate Bangladesh. Prime Minister Sheikh Mujibur Rahman recognized Gandhi's contribution to the independence of Bangladesh. Nepal and Bhutan remained aligned with India, and in 1975 Gandhi incorporated Sikkim into India through a public referendum.
Next will follow a video of then Pakistan President Yahya Khan and then Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi being interviewed on the 1971 war.
Because against armed rebels, you have to arm the people to fight them back.
How severe or tense is the situation along the border itself?
Well, I'm watching it with great patience. And I'm warning the world that if they have any idea of taking a chunk of my territory in East Pakistan and think this is not war, let me warn you, and I warn the world, that this will mean war, an overall war, which I hate, I don't like. But for the defense of my country, I must then fight an all-out war. That will mean war here in West Pakistan.
How close are you to war with India?
Very near it.
You would agree that a military solution is no solution at all. How exactly are you hoping to come to a political settlement?
The political solution that I had laid down before my nation 2.5 years ago, I was going along that until part of my community decided to rebel. Well, and rebelled with arms. It was an armed rebellion.
All the world admires a deed well done, and I think with all modesty we can say that we have done this action well. But let us not forget that the road ahead is still long and very steep, and we have many peaks to scale. Let us hope that we can do this with the same spirit in which we have faced this challenge, and that we will go ahead from peak to peak, raising our nation to new heights of quality and of excellence. I thank you once again, and I want to also welcome, I should like to say a very special word of greeting to our guest, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Bangladesh.
Middle East. After 1971 Indo-Pak War, Egypt, Syria and Algeria chose to remain neutral, while Arab monarchies in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and United Arab Emirates openly supported Pakistan. Gandhi remained a staunch supporter of Palestinians in the Arab-Israel conflict and was critical of Middle East diplomacy sponsored by the U.S.
Next will be a video of Yasser Arafat's visit to India during Indira Gandhi's rule.
Would you like to say the reaction to the upgrading of the mission in New Delhi? Mr. Arafat,